Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sorry, could somebody grab me the book? I got Bhagavatams here, but they're not there. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto. Today we're beginning chapter 9, Lord Brahma's prayers for creative energy, and we're doing text 1. Brahma Vacha Jatso Simedya Surichan Anudeha Bhajam Gyato Simedya Suchiran Anudeha Bhajam Na Gyayate Bhagavato Gatir It Yavadyam Na Gyayate Bhagavato Gatir It Yavadyam Nanyatvarasti Bhagavan Apitan Nasudham Nanyatvarasti Bhagavan Apitan Nasudham Maya Guna Vyatikaradhyat Uru Vibhasi Maya Guna Vyatikaradhyat Uru Vibhasi Brahmovacha Gyato Simedya Suchiran Anudeha Bhajam Nagyayate Bhagavato Gatir Ityavajyan Nanyatvarasti Bhagavan Apitan Nasudham Maya Guna Vyatikaradya Ruru Vibhasi. Others, please. Vaishnavis. Ja. Okay. Nobody else has a book. In the good old days, this didn't used to happen. The system was, we had Krishnapad, right? For years and years and years, Krishnapad, we had a board up there, and Krishnapad used to write it up. How many years did you do that for? He can't even remember. But that's how we used to do it. Okay. Brahmovacha, Lord Brahma said, Yataha, known. Asi, you are. Me, by me. Adya, today. Suchirat, after a long time. Nanu, but. Dehabhajam, of one who has a material body. Na, not. Gyayate, is known. Bhagavataha, of the personality of Godhead. Gati, course. Iti, so it is. Avadyam, great offense. Na anyat, none beyond. Twat, you. Asti, there is. Bhagavan, O my Lord. Api, even though there is. Tat, anything that may be. Na, never. Shudham, absolute. Maya, material energy. Guna vyatikarat, because of the mixture of the modes of. Yat, to which. Uru, transcendental. Vibhasi, you are. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma said, O my Lord, today, after many, many years of penance, I have come to know about you. Oh, how unfortunate the embodied living entities are that they are unable to know your personality. My Lord, you are the only knowable object because there is nothing supreme beyond you. If there is anything supposedly superior to you, it is not the absolute. You exist as the supreme by exhibiting the creative energy of matter. Purport. The highest peak of the ignorance of the living entities who are conditioned by material bodies is that they are unaware of the supreme cause of the cosmic manifestation. Different people have different theories regarding the supreme cause, but none of them are genuine. The only supreme cause is Vishnu, and the intervening impediment is the illusory energy of the Lord. The Lord has employed His wonderful material energy in manifesting many, many wonderful distractions in the material world, and the conditioned souls, illusioned by the same energy, are thus unable to know the supreme cause. The most stalwart scientists and philosophers, therefore, cannot be accepted as wonderful. They only appear wonderful because they are instruments in the hands of the illusory energy of the Lord. Under illusion, the general mass of people deny the existence of the Supreme Lord and accept the foolish products of illusory energy as supreme. One can know the supreme cause, the personality of Godhead, by the causeless mercy of the Lord, which is bestowed upon the Lord's pure devotees like Brahma and those in his disciplic succession. By acts of penance only was Lord Brahma able to see Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and by realization only could he understand the Lord as he is. Brahma was extremely satisfied upon observing the magnificent beauty and opulence of the Lord, and he admitted that nothing can be comparable to him. Only by penance can one appreciate the beauty and opulence of the Lord, And when one is acquainted with that beauty and opulence, he is no longer attracted by any other. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 29, Param Drishtra Navartate. Foolish human beings who do not endeavor to investigate the supreme beauty and opulence of the Lord are here condemned by Brahma. It is imperative that every human being try for such knowledge, and if anyone does not do so, his life is spoiled. Anything that is beautiful and opulent in the material sense is enjoyed by those living entities who are like crows. Crows always engage in picking at rejected garbage, whereas the white ducks do not mix with the crows. Rather, they take pleasure in the transparent lakes with lotus flowers, surrounded by beautiful orchards. Both crows and ducks are undoubtedly birds by birth, but they are not of the same feather. Om Agyanatamiram Dasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakaramayam Didati Swapadantikam. So we're hearing from Lord Brahma. This chapter is entitled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. So Lord Brahma, as we learned from the last chapter, is the chief engineer of this universe, and he's the head of all the demigods. He's the first created being in the material world. All other beings in the material world come from him. He's the father of the four Kumaras. He's the father of Lord Shiva. He's the father of Narada Muni. He has a lot of famous children. I think Lakshmi as well, Swayambhuva Manu, Satarupa. It's all starting with Lord Brahma. Of course, it's all starting with Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, but as far as created beings go, Lord Brahma is the beginning. And Lord Brahma is head and shoulders. It should be understood that Lord Brahma is head and shoulders above, beyond all the other demigods, for instance. Like Lord Indra, he lives, and the Manus, they live for approximately 300 million years. Because there's 14 Manus in a day of Brahma, it's the 12-hour day. That's 4.3 billion years. So let's just divide that by 10 to make it easy. So 4.3 billion divided by 10, what's that, 430 million? Yeah, 430. So, but it's divided by 12, so it's 300-something million years. That's the lifespan of a Manu or a Indra. Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion years. That's 1 million times. His lifespan is 1 million times that of like Lord Indra, who's the quote-unquote king of heaven, and the Manus. So just to give you an idea. Also, he's the most intelligent person in the universe. And that's confirmed. That was confirmed indirectly, well, in a sense, by Lord Chaitanya, because when Lord Chaitanya was traveling in South India, he came upon this one temple. It was either the Adi Keshava temple, I can't remember the detail, or it was Sri Rangam, where he found manuscripts, copies of the Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita, right? Was Adi Keshava or? Okay, so he could understand that these were genuine. This was a genuine Brahma Samhita. So he got permission from the temple commander to copy it, and he brought it back, and I think he presented copies to Ramananda Roy, if I remember correctly. So from Lord Chaitanya we can understand something about the importance, the kind of respect we should give to Lord Brahma. I mean, Lord Chaitanya thought that what Lord Brahma had to say was important enough so that he had a copy made, and he gave it to his, a topmost associate, Ramananda Roy. So he held the intelligence of Lord Brahma in very high esteem. It's also said, I've heard it said, that what we have is the 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita, and that there's actually 100 chapters. So I can't imagine what Lord Brahma could say in another 99 chapters. Seems like he said it all in that 5th chapter. He covered so much ground, but anyway, supposedly there's another 99 chapters to the Brahma Samhita. So that gives us an idea of the intelligence of how intelligent Lord Brahma is, and how he was held in very high regard by Lord Chaitanya and Krishna himself. But there were 2 occasions when Lord Brahma kind of slipped up a little bit. There was one occasion when Lord Brahma had to be corrected about his judgment, and there's another occasion when he did something that he later regretted. Okay? So let's see if anybody knows. Can anybody give me the example of some time when Lord Brahma was corrected? When it was pointed out to him that maybe you got to be a little more discriminating? Oh, yes, I didn't think of that one. Yeah. Right. That's a big one. Right, I forgot about that. Yeah, he definitely got corrected there. That's an incident there. As intelligent as he was, that happened to him. Actually, now that you mention that, that's the reason why, as a result of that incident, I won't call it a pastime, well, maybe it's probably a pastime, but an incident, that's the reason why he's not worshipped. There's only one temple of Lord Brahma throughout India. There's hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands of temples of Shiva, Durga, some other demigods, but there's only one temple of Lord Brahma in all of India. And the reason is because I believe it's Lord Shiva was very disturbed by that behavior. So I thought it was Lakshmi, but somebody looked it up on the internet for me this morning, and apparently it was Lord Shiva was disturbed by that behavior, and he got cursed or something, that you're not going to be very popular. You're not going to be worshipped very much. So there's only one temple of Lord Brahma throughout India. So that was one definite incident. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. He kind of didn't get that quite right. And Lord Brahma, and Lord Krishna had to show him that you're only one of many millions, right? Was it? Well, a lot of different Brahmas and a lot of different universes. Another one that I thought of was that, he gave that benediction to Hiranyakasipu. And I can't remember if it was Lord Narayan or Lord Nrsingadev after the whole thing played out and, Hiranyakasipu was killed. But there was some point in time where, I remember, if I'm reading from the Bhagavatam, where, as I said, I can't remember if it was Lord Narayan or Lord Nrsingadev, said to him, could you just be a little bit more careful? You got to be a little bit more careful about who you give these benedictions to and what kind of benediction you give. So he did get corrected there. As intelligent as he was, he kind of didn't quite get it right on that occasion. And the one incident that he regretted, well, he probably regretted that thing with chasing after his daughter as well, but he also came to regret stealing the cows and the calves. He thought, this Krishna, this can't be Krishna. Even if let me just play a trick and really see if this is really the supreme, my worshipful Lord, the supreme personality of God. And then he came to regret that afterwards because he got so bewildered when Krishna, did what he did, manifesting all the himself as all the cows and the calves and then the Vishnu forms. And Lord Brahma was just totally bewildered by the end of the whole thing, and he kind of offered a lot of prayers. Anyway, so as intelligent as he is, he made a few mistakes. We heard yesterday that Lord Brahma was the first yogi. That's an interesting thing. I never thought of him like that, but that was something that. Right, he'd have to be considered the first yogi. Okay, so now as far as that's a little background information about Lord Brahma. Now, as far as today's verse goes. Lord Brahma says in his statement, he says, if there is anything supposedly superior to you, it is not the absolute. Well, how do we understand that? Well, I think the key word there is supposedly. In other words, basically, because he just got finished saying that, my Lord, you are the only knowable object because there is nothing supreme beyond you. He just got finished saying, there's nothing supreme beyond you. And then in the next breath, he's saying, if there is anything superior to you, but he says, supposedly superior to you. In other words, there's nothing superior to Krishna. By supposedly, he's indicating that it's an illusion. You see, if there's anything supposedly superior to you, meaning there's not anything superior to you, it is not the absolute. What's that verse in the second canto? Right. Yeah, right. Supposedly. It's not. There's nothing superior. It's actually an illusion. Now, in the purport here, Prabhupada talks about people are conditioned souls by material. They are unaware of the supreme cause of the cosmic manifestation. So they're unaware of the connection between the cosmic manifestation and Krishna. And I'm going to say something about that in a few minutes. But the overall, gist or thrust I got from this purport is, it's saying in so many different words that human life is meant for self-realization, and our body, the body we have, is meant for self-realization. And I want to read something from the third canto here, which gave me some realization on this point. It's a practical realization I kind of got that I'll share with everybody. Okay, so this is from third canto, chapter 28, and this is text 8. So this is Lord Kapila speaking to his mother, Devahuti, and he says, after controlling one's mind and sitting postures, one should spread a seat in a secluded and sanctified place. Sit there in an easy posture, keeping the body erect and practice breath control. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, it is recommended in the yoga scripture that one should put the soles of the feet between the two thighs and ankles and sit straight. That posture will help one to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, period. So, my question is, why? Why should that work? Why is it that by sitting with the soles, with the soles of the feet between the two thighs and ankles and sitting straight, as it says in the, translation, keeping the body erect, and in the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, Krishna says, keeping one's body, head, and neck erect. And it actually, in the next sentence, Prabhupada refers to that. He says, this same process is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter. So my question is, why should that work? Why should it make any difference? Why should it make any difference whether you're sitting like that straight, or you're lying down, or whatever you're doing? Yeah, right. So that's the technical answer, and that's correct, to what I've heard. But a general answer is this: the human body is designed for self-realization. Okay, just like if you have a car. There's a car. Now, you get in the car. Say, why should the car, when you get in the car and you turn on the ignition, and you turn on the ignition key, and then you take off the parking brake and you put it in gear, and then you press your accelerator, why should that car go forward? Because it's designed for that purpose. You see, the car is designed so that if you do certain things, it'll drive, and if you know how to drive it, it's like incredible what you could do, like you're zipping down the highway at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, because it's designed for that purpose. You could do amazing things in that vehicle if you know how to use it. So, my point is that the human body, it's the same thing. It's an analogy. It's designed for self-realization. And when you know how to use it, and this is a tip actually on how to use it, you could do amazing things. The human body is capable of amazing things. Why? Because it's designed for self-realization. Okay, but putting this detail apart, and I'm not suggesting that everybody has to try to start sitting like this, although nothing wrong with it. I mean, Prabhupada does say, we have that one japa tape, and in the middle of the japa tape, you hear Prabhupada go, sit properly, right? Everybody's heard that. So, there is some value there for sure. But even the more important point is, is the main point is that human life is meant for self-realization, and this sitting straight like this, as recommended by Lord Kapila here and Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, is a means to an end. The end is, as it says here, to be able to concentrate your mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what's important, concentrating our mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And back in the Satyayuga, that was done in a different way. Kardama Muni, for instance, he achieved success in yoga by concentrating his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'll read you a little something about Kardama Muni here. It says here, when Kardama Muni actually realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person, he did this kind of meditation. He was greatly satisfied by his transcendental desire. He was greatly because his transcendental desire was fulfilled. He fell on the ground with his head bowed to offer obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. His heart, naturally full of love of God, with folded hands, he satisfied the Lord with prayers. So somebody might think, well, what's wrong with that system? I mean, Kardama Muni did it. Look, it sounds like he did pretty good. He got a pretty good result. Yeah, well, okay, that's true. But here's something else that you have to bear in mind. Kardama Muni, he was living at the beginning of the Satyayuga. Prabhupada says in a purport, a couple of verses before that, he says, in the Satyayuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to Kardama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, here 2 points are very significant. The first is that Kardama Muni attained success by yoga practice in the beginning of the Satyayuga, when people used to live for 100,000 years. So he lived for 100,000 years. And I think it's mentioned in some other purport that he did that meditation for 10,000 years. That's a long time. We don't have 10,000 years. We don't have, and even if we have it, we're not together enough to use it in that way. To sit for 10 minutes is hard for most people these days, or at least maybe 10 hours. Somebody who's really disciplined and healthy could sit for 10 hours. But he meditated for 10,000 years. So anyway, everybody knows this. It's not the process. It's just not the process for this age. The way we concentrate our mind on the Supreme is by chanting the Maha Mantra. And, if it works for you, you can use this instruction about sitting straight as a means to that end, but that's what's important. The important thing is to concentrate the mind on the Supreme, and the process for us to concentrate our mind on the Supreme is to chant the Maha Mantra. Prabhupada says here in the next purport, he says, referring to the Hatha Yoga system or breathing system is especially recommended for those who are very absorbed in the concept of bodily existence. But one who can perform the simple process of chanting Hare Krishna can fix the mind more easily. So that's what's meant for us. And then in the end of that purport, he says, practicing the yoga system of exercise and breath control is very difficult for a person in this age. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya recommended Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should always chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord Krishna, because Krishna is the most suitable name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, period. Sorry. The name Krishna and the Supreme Person Krishna are non-different. Therefore, and here comes, therefore, if one concentrates his mind on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, the same result is achieved. See? So it's not that that's a bogus process. It's a bona fide process. We can't do it. We can't do it. Okay? So we've been given a concession to, concentrate our minds on the chanting, the hearing and chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, and according to Prabhupada here, the same result will be achieved. The same result that was achieved means what we heard about Kardama Muni, that he was, he fell on the ground with his head bowed and tears coming from his eyes, his heart naturally full of love of God, etc. Same result will be achieved by concentrating our mind on hearing and chanting the Maha Mantra. And so, knowing that, we have to be really serious about this hearing and chanting the Maha Mantra. And each one of us it's up to each one of us to do whatever we have to do to be in shape to do that. Just like an athlete, it's your responsibility to be in shape to play your sport. I'm sorry if I'm coming from that kind of a background, so I relate things to that. But it's your responsibility for you to be in the condition you need to be in to play your sport. You see? It's not the coaches. It's not your parents. It's not the spectators who are going to... No, it's up to you. So in the same way, it's up to each one of us to have ourselves in shape to really chant the Hare Krishna mantra seriously. And I'm going to support my statement here with a couple of sentences from a purport from the 8th canto where Prabhupada says something about that. He says, this is in the chapter, The Elephant Gajendra's Crisis, 8th canto, chapter 2, and the purport to text 30. Prabhupada says, we may take the lesson from Gajendra that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. So that's an instruction from Prabhupada. He's saying, he's acknowledging, yeah, we're in a fight with Maya. In our fight with Maya, which means we're in a fight with Maya, whether you know it or not. That's what we're hearing right here. We're in a fight with Maya. And Prabhupada's saying that you shouldn't be in a position in which your strength, enthusiasm, and senses are unable to fight vigorously. Okay, goes on. It says, our Krishna consciousness movement is actually declared war against the illusory energy in which all living entities are riding in a false understanding of civilization. The soldiers in this Krishna consciousness movement, that's us, that's all of us. We're all the soldiers in the Krishna consciousness movement. Must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. Okay? Now here's a really good, important sentence coming up. Prabhupada says, to keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. And now this next sentence is really also, what constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone. And then he goes on to talk about Varnashram. But that's a detail. Well, it's a principle at a detail as well. The point is that it's up to each one of us. The temple president's not going to do it. Your kitchen manager's not going to. It's up to each one of us to do this, to keep ourselves in a condition of life where we possess the physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. Each one of us has to take that responsibility for ourselves. And it might not be the same for what one person has to do might not be the same as what another person has to do. But whatever you got to do, this is the end result. You got to organize your life in such a way that the end result will be that you. We're not the supreme controllers, obviously, but we have to do as much as we possibly can to try to be in that situation where we have physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. So that's an important instruction from Prabhupada there. This is kind of, I hope it's a philosophical speculation, a suggestion on how to, it might sound very daunting, wow, it's a lot, but it can be a little bit easier than what it might initially sound like. In sports, once again, there's an expression, keep your eye on the ball. It's actually like an expression that applies to a lot of different sports. It applies to baseball. You got to keep your eye on the basketball, football, tennis, golf. You get that instruction from your coaches in all the different sports. Keep your eye on the ball. Why? There's a reason. Because what happens is, let's take baseball, for instance. You're there. You're at the plate, okay? You got to see the ball. If you're looking at the plate, very unlikely you're going to be able to hit that ball. If you're looking off into right field, into the grandstands, how are you going to, you're not even going to know the guy threw it. The pitcher pitched it. So you have to keep your eye on the ball. Because what happens is, and this is what happens, this is a principle called self-organization. What happens is when you keep your eye on the ball, this is an analogy, by the way, I'm making, it says here, this is a definition of self-organization. Some form of overall order arises from local interaction between parts of a system between parts of a potentially organized system. Let me read that again, okay? This is self-organization. Some form of overall order arises from local interaction between parts of potentially organized systems. So let's take the human body. It's a potentially organized system. You got your eyes, you got your brain, then you got your arms, and you got so you're a potentially organized system. And when you keep your eye on the ball, and you know that the objective is to hit that thing, then things swing into action. It's not like you think about each different thing. You just, because you're in a potentially organized system. It's like a machine. It's designed. So you keep your eye on the ball, and then just to the best of your ability, things just synchronize and fall into place so that you can hopefully successfully hit the ball. Same thing with golf, or any of those sports. So it's the same thing with Krishna consciousness. The idea is keep your eye on the ball means it's in applied to Krishna consciousness. Keep our eye on the goal. We have to keep our eye on the goal. What's it? Yeah, Prabhu yesterday. I've forgotten his name. Garuda. Sorry. Yeah, I was thinking Satraj. I know it was the brain. Anyway, so like Garuda was saying yesterday, always there's that. I think Bhagavad Gita 1872. He said, ekagra, with one pointed fixed attention. See, always keeping the mind on the goal, and then things just fall in place. So it's the same thing in Krishna consciousness. As much as possible, we always have to, keep in mind what is our goal. The goal to become pure devotees, go back to Godhead like that, and that'll help. That'll help. It'll help in a mechanical way, like what we just heard about this, principle of self-organization, but also we're not, ultimately Krishna consciousness devotional service is not a mechanical process. It's a relationship process, and by doing that, we're invoking the mercy of superior authorities. Like I heard one lecture Prabhupada gave in, I wasn't personally there, I just heard the recording of it, but in 1977, Prabhupada was one of the last, probably maybe the last class he gave to the body of devotees before he stopped coming down and like that. He gave as a definition for the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram, Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buro, Kripaya Tavapada Pankaja, Stitaduli Sadvasam Vachintaya. O Krishna, son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. So that prayer, Prabhupada gave that as a definition of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that's expressing the goal. So it's a prayer. So that's another point, that a way in which we can keep our eye on the ball, so to speak, is be in the prayerful mood. That's an important part of devotional service. In the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, was it Tasmad Yudyasya, how's it go? Tasmad Sarveshu Bhute Kaleshu Mamanusvana Yudyascha Mayarpito Manobudhir something, I can't remember the last line. But the idea was he doesn't just tell him fight. He tells him fight and remember me. Basically what he's saying is, you have to do your duty, but have a prayerful devotional mood as much as possible. Strive for that at the same time. And by doing that, we will be able to take advantage of this self-organization principle that I refer to, because the body is set up for that purpose. But also Krishna is aware of that. He's the, Prabhupada says in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna is the super soul, he's aware of the psychic movements of every living entity. And he says that same thing many different ways in many different places. Krishna knows what we're thinking about, how we're praying, what our mood is, and he reciprocates with that. So if we do like that, then we're going to have a lot of it's best opportunity for success in devotional service. So I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah, Rabindranath Prabhu.
Yeah, you were mentioning how there's a certain asana by doing which one can concentrate better. So we suggest that those who could do that asana, they should chant their japa in that way?
I do, be honest with you. And I'll tell you why. Because in the last 2 weeks I started doing it, and I'm experiencing the difference. It works. It definitely works. It might start off like a bit of an austerity, It depends also, because it's a physical thing. It's what kind of shape you're in and everything. I mean, but it's been working for me, and I'm finding that it's just helping me. It's preventing me from using energy that I don't need to use, like say walking around, doing this, that, the other thing. I'm conserving my energy, right? That's one thing. I find it's helping, and then. Be honest with you, I mean, when the sun starts coming up, and I'm not talking about seeing the sun, just even the first light in the sky. I don't know about anybody else, but I've observed this of myself for years, that I start getting energy. It's like somebody's turned on a switch, and like a dimmer on a light, and they gradually, as from the first light in the sky, and for the next 48 minutes, I just seem to get more energy in my body. So when I'm sitting like that, okay, so I've conserved my energy. I'm already not kind of splayed out all over the place. And then just by nature's arrangement or Krishna's arrangement, I start feeling some more, and I use that energy to chant. Now I'm not feeling tired. I'm not feeling like all wiped out and this. I'm feeling like, okay, here I am. I'm not splayed out. Let me just really get into the chanting. And I find it helpful. I've been only doing it for 2 or 3 weeks now. But yeah, I'm finding it helpful. And Prabhupada does say, Prabhupada says it right here in his purport. So yeah, if you can do it, I'd say do it. I mean, there's definitely a connection. Ultimately, we're bhakti yogis. We're, depending upon the mercy of the Lord. But there's definitely, a lot of practical things. And Prabhupada's, he's given us guidelines of, different practical things we could do to facilitate our devotional service. They're not like essential teachings. Like this is not an essential teaching. Garuda characterized as essential teachings. There's supportive teachings, and there's supplemental teachings. So I'd have to put this in the sitting, the way you sit, in the category of, at best, a supportive teaching, perhaps even a supplemental teaching. It's not an essential thing, but it's okay. Whatever helps. So just like in diet, I've heard Prabhupada say in one of these yoga system lectures that he gave here in Los Angeles way back in 1968, he said, don't eat at night. He said, practice yoga like that. So it's, once again, is that an essential teaching? No. But is it something that could be helpful? Well, yeah. Otherwise, why would Prabhupada say that? He said, if you want to do anything with determination, he was talking in the same series of lectures, he said, give up sex life. And he gave the example of Mahatma Gandhi, how when he was 36 or 38 years old, he stopped, and Prabhupada said as a result of that, he became very determined, and he was, So there's different things Prabhupada gives us, and, they're not essential teachings, but they could be, they're supplemental, possibly even supportive, and yeah, if possible, they're favorable, so if we can do them, incorporate those into our life, that's a good idea. They'll be helpful. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question or comment? Sachidnoy? Waiting for the mic.
Thank you, Prabhu. Just on support of that, keep on the eye on the ball.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that a lot of devotees know. Vyavasayen ka buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahusaka hyanantascha buddhayo vyavisayanam. And the translation of that is here, is saying that those who are on the path, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and the determination is one. But those who are, the intelligence is diverted by many branches, they get lost.
Yeah, they can't do it. I think, is the next verse after that, Bhogashvaya prasaktanam? Yeah. Krishna says, in the minds of those who are too much attached to material opulence and sense gratification and bewildered by such things, then the resolute determination for devotional service can't take place. And yeah, I mean, ultimately though, even with resolute determination and being fixed, it's Krishna's mercy. There's that verse, and this is the last thing I'll say, by the way, and then we'll stop. In chapter 10, text 11, Krishna says, Tesham eva anukampartam aham agyana jam tamaha nasyami atmabhavashto jnana depena bhashvata. That says, to show special mercy to them, I who am dwelling within their heart, destroy with the shining lamp of ignorance the darkness born of, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge, the darkness born of ignorance. So that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter what you do. If Krishna doesn't destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance, you're remaining in the darkness of ignorance, you see? So, 1-pointed, 2-pointed, 10-pointed, 20-pointed, ultimately we're depending upon Krishna's mercy, but, we're supposed to do what we can. So for our part, we have to try to be 1-pointed. We have to try to do everything we can, be favorably engaged in devotional service. But ultimately, it's up to, we're depending upon Krishna's mercy that he nasyami atmabhavashto jnana depena bhashvata, that he destroys with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So ultimately, we're depending upon Krishna's mercy. So thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you. Beautiful. Hey, should I talk to you a little bit about